unpopular opinion, but you guys should have never left traditional sew-ins and regular sew-ins with lace closures, because it is by the use of frontals and using frontals too much, leaving frontals on for way too long, that has caused massive breakage and forms of telogen effluvium and so many different forms of alopecia. But in today, we're going to unpack it, because everyone who wears extensions or weaves does not have damaged hair. They're not insecure. Sometimes it's just a protective style, and today we're going to unpack it. So get your notebooks out and make sure you're subscribed here to my channel so you won't miss anything. This is a beauty that I had for years as a client, and she's also one of my clients that is in the Air Force, because in doing hair in Las Vegas, Nevada, Nellis Air Force Base is here, and a whole lot of my clients were in the Air Force. And as you know, if you're in the Air Force, you can't have your hair down touching your collarbone and all of that jazz. And she didn't want to constantly have her hair in ponytails and buns, because that's gonna cause a whole nother form of damage. So what we decided to do when she had to be because if I'm not mistaken, she was reserved. I could be wrong, but it's been like, this video is like 7 years old, but I just know that there were times when she could wear her hair down and it wasn't a big deal, right? But we are putting her hair up in extensions, so that way her hair can still grow out, it can still thicken up, it can still remain healthy, but she doesn't have to get those lines of demarcation and that constant breakage from constantly having her hair in a bun or in a ponytail because she couldn't wear her hair down. Now, the majority of my clients that were in the Air Force, this is what we did, and all of them had extremely long hair. Now, this growth batter did not make hair grow, but it was amazing at retaining length. So it would give you the illusion that your hair was growing, but in reality, it was just helping you to maintain length. I don't currently sell the product anymore, but if you get my ebook on shea butter, you can get something like it and you can make it yourself. And this is something that I only use for braid downs. So again, this beauty is a regular client of mine, okay? Have been doing her hair for years. The color that is on her hair, I put in, and it is growing out. As you can see, her hair is doing absolutely amazing. Now, whenever I put hair extensions on, I was never one of those hairstylists that just drenched the scalp in something like oils and butters and things of that nature, because for one, we're in Las Vegas, Nevada, baby, and sometimes it's like 110 degrees. So in 110 degree weather, you're already gonna be sweating and stuff like that in your scalp. So the very last thing that anybody should ever want to do is put a whole bunch of oil and grease in between each braid, because remember, in the video linked in the description box below, I let you guys know that there are about 1,000 different forms of yeast and bacteria that live on the human scalp, and their favorite environment is wet and humid environments full of oils and butters, because all of these amazing properties that you guys hear about, all of these different herbs and oils and things of that nature, the living organisms that live on your scalp, they like it too, baby. So the more of it you put on there, the more ability you give these forms of bacteria and yeast to colonize. And you know what colonization is? It's what happened in America and the rest of the world with the Romans. So now, again, I'm braiding her hair all the way down. I didn't use braided hair ever on her hair, if I'm not mistaken. The only time I really needed to use braided hair is if I had a client where the places where I would anchor were a little weaker and I needed to reinforce, right? But I also didn't always use a hairnet, because again, We are in Las Vegas, Nevada, and the more layers you put on top of the hair, the more the hair is likely to sweat, the more you're going to accumulate different forms of bacteria. So we didn't use a net, and she came in regularly for maintenance. She didn't play none of those games. And this is why I wanted to come on here and start this series on sew-ins. I have a full playlist about, I want to say I have about 15 to 20 different sew-ins that we can go over, because I think that one of the main things that confuses everybody thinks sew-ins are oh so bad, and they are one of my favorite protective styles. So let's talk about why. Now, for the very first weft, I sew under the braid, and I sew going under because it's just my technique. It just works, and not mine, like I'm the only person who does this. But I love it because when I flip the track up, you cannot see anything. And remember, these are my clients who are in the Air Force. They're going to be having their hair in ponytails all the time. And I also, even though you can leave hair out along the perimeter to cover the wefts, I want to have all of her hair up except for those very, very fine hairs along the perimeter, because those are the ones that break rather easily. So I went ahead and left that portion out, right? But the reason that weaves and extensions are so damaging to people, I'm doing the quotations with my fingers, is because for a long time people have been using them wrong, right? This video is about 7 years old, but you guys, I need you to remember, prior to this was around, or not prior to this, during this time was around the time that everybody was like frontal this, frontal that. And I was one of those cosmetologists that didn't have frontals on my service list as something that people can book, not because I wasn't good at it, but because it gave unrealistic expectations. And remember, yes, I was standing behind the chair as a cosmetologist and doing different hairstyles with naturally curly hair was my thing. Whether their hair was chemically treated or virgin, it doesn't matter. It was just my thing, right? But I really couldn't stand frontals because I knew the long-term damage, right? Because I am a cosmetologist and a scientist, right? The way that I look at things is a little different. So most people will look at a product and say, oh, look at this on how it's gonna have my hair looking later on the day. But the way I think is in the future. As a research scientist, I get my data from looking at patterns. And this I'm talking about patterns that are in action for like decades, right? Not a pattern that you follow for a couple of weeks, but patterns that people follow for decades, right? So I knew that when lace frontals first came out, even though they sounded great, I knew that it wasn't something that women should be doing on a regular basis. Keep in mind, frontals went mainstream with love and hip hop, but cosmetologists, we were doing lace frontals and stuff like that long before they reached social media, and we never recommended it as a service because it was just something that was just really unrealistic, unless you're gonna have glue in your purse everywhere you go and be reapplying that glue every 48 hours, right? Like, as a licensed cosmetologist, who that really cares about the science of hair and the integrity of your client's scalp and the longevity of their hair growth cycle and their follicles, you're never going to recommend something like frontals as something that you use all the time, right? And because they were selling different, I'm not going to say nobody's name or no names, but because there was lace glue and all of the lace people were going so viral and making so much money and so much noise, that's what everybody followed, and that was okay. But for that reason, right, there are all of these different techniques and angles created to make frontals last longer, and that's where all of the tension and the pulling and the breakage came from. But prior to that, with traditional sew-ins or with one like this one, you don't have all of that tension and pulling, and when the weave gets old, it's just time to take it out. You have a couple of different maintenance appointments, right? I wouldn't let my clients do more than 2 maintenance appointments, right? And then we would take it out, because anything over that, you're not protecting your hair. Your hair is holding on to the weave. Your hair protecting the weave not protecting your hair, right? So this is something that I always really was extremely passionate about, talking to my clients and letting them know that when it comes to weaves and extensions, if you're talking about something that is going to give you longevity, not just looking cute, but when you decide, you know what, I don't want to wear weaves no more, I want to take a break, or I just want to wear my real hair for like a couple of months, you'll have that option. And I used to tell clients, like, if you make frontals your regular every day, there'll be a certain point where you won't like the way that you look without it on. Because you have to think about it. When you wear a frontal, you give yourself a whole new hairline. So your face looks different to yourself, right? When you take the frontal off, all of them little baby hairs you had swift and swiggled everywhere, they're not there. That's why you see so many people now taking scissors and razors and cutting their real edges to mimic the lace frontals and the lace wigs, right? Because it's something that just went a little too far, guys. But as you can see, as I'm sewing her hair in, please do not get me to telling you a story on what kind of hair this is, where it was from. It was so long ago, I really don't know. But as you can see, I am flipping the wefts. There are certain places right up under the lace closure that I'm not gonna flip, because I don't want it to be any like bumps or anything. And she purposely would always get like a thicker texture because she wanted it to resemble her real hair. And whenever I did her real hair, it looked just like these bundles are about. Now that we are almost done, we're pretty much almost done putting these bundles in, right? This is the portion that most people get confused about, because it's like, oh well, isn't this damaging to the hair? No. If you sew with like a dingy little cheap little cotton thread, maybe that'll be a problem. But if you use a silk nylon thread, you are fine. Silk, satin, or nylon thread, you are absolutely 100% okay. And then I want you to pay attention to the way that I prepped her hair before. Now, you didn't get to see that portion of it, but her hair was shampooed, deep conditioned, and then her hair was blown out. Now, I did use a comb attachment because the tools that I use are going to be dependent on the style that I'm doing. So if I'm not doing the silk press, I'm not pulling out a round brush to dry the hair to do a sew-in, because I'm not doing the silk press. So getting the hair dry was my objective. So it's not a big deal. It just depends on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish at that time, right? So again, I'm going through, that's one place where I just went ahead and cut the weft, because she is doing a middle part. Now, this video again is 7 years old, so the way that we laying lace today in 2024 is not the same way that it was then. Okay, don't get me wrong, it's still about to be cute, but I'm just saying, this not a 2024 weave. This is 7 years ago, almost 7 years ago. Anyway, so now as we are finishing this up, I am just making sure that the very last weft and the frontal are kissing, not laying on top of each other, but kissing, like not even a tongue kiss, just like a little peck on the lips, right? And at that point, we are going to have really good movement, because when I am doing the sewing, I am matching the curvature of my client's hair. And one of the really confusing things for people is, anytime you see a black woman with a weave in, or even a black woman with long hair or hair that's longer in general, is either, oh, is that a weave? Or if you see a black woman with a weave, the thing that you'll see all the time, I was gonna put some of the comments in from another weave, because clearly nobody could say that about her. But most of the comments that I would get, which is why most of these videos are unlisted, because the energy was just blah, you know, to be like, oh my god, black women get weaves because they're trying to look like white women, or they're trying to look like other women. And you guys, black women are not the only women who wear weaves and extensions. When I was standing behind a chair, y'all, I did weaves and hair extensions, because there is a difference between weaves and extensions. And I did weaves and extensions on so many different races, different ethnic backgrounds. It's not just a black girl thing. And you don't just wear weaves because you don't have hair, or you don't wear weaves because you don't like the way your hair looks. Weaves and hair extensions, well, hair extensions are not protective styles, but weaves are protective styles. When I say there's a difference between weaves and extensions, when you weave something, you braid your natural hair up, and then you weave new hair in between that hair base that you made. That is weaving. Literally, like what actual weaving is, like weaving a basket. Weaving is like sewing in. That's weaving. That's a form of weaving. Extensions is when you extend the hair that is already on your head. So when you have extensions, you're not braiding the hair up or anything. You are just extending the hair that's already there. So your hair is out, and then in between you lay tracks. So let's say you glue a couple of bonded tracks in between each braid. That's a form of extensions. Micro links are extensions. Tapin extensions, tap-ins are extensions. Those, any form of hair, any form of extensions where you still have your hair out, the majority of your hair out, and it's just extending the hair that's already on your head, that's extensions. And then when you're getting a weave, you're braiding your hair up, the majority of your hair up, and you're weaving hair in between the hair that is yours. That's the difference. But I remember, I'm not saying that's how it is now, but I just remember having this conversation with people in this video clip that you're watching right now. In the comments, there was a big argument. They were like, no, they're always trying to separate black girls from other races, and that's why they separate the differences. That's not why they separate the differences. There is a difference between weaves and extensions. Anybody of any race can get either one, but there's just different time frames that you would have to leave them in. For example, I would have women that were not black that would get weaves, right? But they couldn't leave theirs in for 2 months. They would have theirs in for a couple of weeks, because their hair would, you know what would happen. So they would only be able to have them in for a couple of weeks. And then when it comes to hair extensions, right, there are only certain textures that should get certain forms of hair extensions for specific reasons, right? So this is something that I really want everybody to think about. When we're talking about hair, it is not so like political, and no, it doesn't have anything to do with that. It's about learning the science of the human body, learning the science of the human hair shaft and the human scalp, and then doing the different styles that are based on your scalp's profile. For example, in the 7-day challenge, that's the main objective. The first thing you have to figure out is your scalp's profile. Of course, I teach you how to do it within this challenge, right? As long as you follow the challenge. But then once you find your scalp's profile, then you know what types of hair extensions you can get, if whether or not you can get extensions, or if you can get a weave, which one is best for you, and what are the patterns and routines that you follow. Again, this beauty that you're watching was my client for a long time. And the reason that her hair was so beautiful and healthy is because she wasn't in her hair planning her hair or anything. It just wasn't a thing. And we didn't always wear weaves and extensions. Sometimes, like I said, if she wasn't like going into work or something, or she had like a week or two off of work, she like, let's live it up, I'm letting my hair out. But because of the way I put her hair extensions in, she could do that. She could go back and forth between weaves and extensions. She could go back and forth between wearing her own hair or doing a flexi rise set. She had options, right? No, we were not switching up her style every appointment. Like, we had a set record like schedule, right? And it was so cool because it was almost like unspoken. It was just, we just knew what time it was. She booked online. She like, oh, it's about that time, right? So that's the end of her video with her getting a sew in with a middle part lace closure, right? But this next portion is her getting a full sew in with a middle part, right? I want you to again look at her hair. Remember, this video is 7 years old, okay? So, and then this day in particular, I don't think I was planning on recording, and I had my light in the wrong spot. So the lighting is gonna look crazy. A, because the video is 7 years old. B, because the light is in front of the camera and it's supposed to be behind it. Players mess up, but I just want you guys to see her hair. Like, look at how beautiful her hair is. Weaves and extensions do not break your hair off. They don't make your hair fall out. If anything, it helps your hair to become thicker and stronger, right? But you have to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And remember what I said about frontals, right? Most people that wear frontals wear a frontal and nothing but a frontal for like 2 years straight. When they take the frontal off, they book another appointment to put another frontal on, and then they just keep going. That's why you have traction alopecia. That's why your hair is damaged. That's why your forehead is a different color than the rest of your face, right? That's why all of these different things are happening, because you don't give your hair enough time. You don't give your hair a break, right? Your hair doesn't have enough time to breathe. It doesn't have enough variety. You're doing the same exact thing over and over and over, and you're doing high manipulative styles, right? Or styles that block oxygen flow. So even though it could be like, oh, this is blocking oxygen flow too, no, it's not, because I'm sewing the hair onto the braid, not her scalp, right? She still has airflow. Like, if you were to take a pick, she could stick a pick in between and under all of her braids. She still has proper oxygen flow. I didn't put a bunch of oils and grease. I didn't put do grow oil. I know y'all love do grow oil, but y'all, the do grow oil is killing bacteria and yeast, because the majority of people who use do grow oil are also people who follow a whole lot of team natural practices, are also people who may not wash their hair enough. So the do grow oil is only killing bacteria. It's only killing the over colonization of the bacteria that's on your scalp. And guess what? You don't even need any products if you just wash your hair on a regular basis. It's something that is so simplistic. You just shampooing the hair on a regular basis. So when I'm always talking about my 7-day challenge or my ebooks and things of that nature, I stood behind the chair for a long time, enough time for me. Okay, there are people who I mentor that have been doing hair just as long as I've been alive, and they still in it. So I'm not saying it like that, but just for me and the place that I am in life, or where I'm going, that 15 years was enough for me. I checked out at 15, right? But even though I checked out from tangibly doing hair, right, I'm still teaching, right? So what I'm teaching within the challenge, within my ebooks, within here on my channel in general, right, what I'm teaching is the same things that all of my clients knew. My clients didn't just come in, like I said, like, oh girl, do that. It's like, no, we were sitting down, making sure that I knew their scalp's profile, their porosity, seeing if the thing they were asking for was something that could be accomplished safely, right? So all of my clients ended up retaining length easily. They all ended up growing hair easily. Why? Because everybody grows hair. It is the different practices that you follow that keep you from growing long hair. So we are going to have this full series on sew-ins, and then after that we are going to have a series showing you all of my clients with healthy hair, and all of their hair looked just like hers. So don't get it twisted, right? Here on my channel you will be confused at thinking that the only time I had clients is when their hair was damaged. damaged. No, I was the Fixit Girl, right? So they would come with damaged hair, and then if they listened, right, and if they didn't go back to their team natural practices, their hair was down their back and longer, never stopped growing, and they had the routines and patterns to follow. And I made sure that they did, because the way that my schedule was working, sometimes I would be booked for like months in advance. So like a client like her, if she doesn't book in advance, which she always did, we never had that problem, but if she waited until the last minute to book, she may have to go a month without seeing me. So I had to make sure that my clients had the tools that they needed to have to ensure that even though they wouldn't be able to come see me, even though they were not able to come sit in my chair, it was still more than possible for them to have healthy hair. And the reason that it was more than possible for them to have healthy hair, you guys, is because they already had the tools, right? A great cosmetologist does not make her clients 100% dependent on her. A great cosmetologist is never going to do that. You know why? It makes my job harder, because I went to cosmetology school to help women have thriving hair, right? Beautiful, healthy hair at whatever length they decide to have it at, right? So if that is my goal, if that is my objective, right, I'm not doing hairstyles or different things that are going to mess up the integrity of my client's hair, nor am I going to allow my clients to do things that mess up the integrity of their hair. Because we're in the sew-in series, I do not have the video. Well, I have it, but it's not within this video that you guys are watching right now. But she did wear her natural hair in between these two sew-ins, right? She didn't just go from sew-in to sew-in. This is not me taking this weave, that first weave that you just washed out, and putting a new one in. No, ma'am. Not that that's a problem, as long as things are done properly. We'll talk about that in another video coming in this series, so don't miss it. But that's something that is also really important. But that also goes to having a plan, right? And the ebook that is listed in the description box below is really good at helping you to just have a hair growth journal to make sure that you are keeping track of all of the different things that you're doing, your wash days and your skin cell turnover, all of these different things, right? It's so important that you keep all of these things in mind, because the reason that most women have so many different scalp and follicle disorders and things of that nature is because once you get a sew-in, because especially if you get a good one, it looks so good, you really like trick yourself into believing that that's your hair, and then the hair and your real hair underneath and your scalp gets completely neglected, and all you care about is the hair extensions. And then when it gets old, you just can't wait to take it out, and you so irritated to take it down because you love the hair extension so much, but you just hate your real hair. So to have to take out the weave is just and that is where the problem comes, because contrary to popular opinion, your hair is still attached to your whole entire body, and your hair can feel you. It does. And proof that your hair can feel your emotions: when you get stressed out, your hair falls out. If any big thing that has a hold on you in any type of way emotionally, even when you have a baby, when your body goes through that intense pain, that intense stress, it takes you an intelligent effluvium. So a lot of women that give birth and have babies, they think that they're balding and things like that, where in reality their hair just needs a chance to relax and relate and come back. Those follicles that were in shock just need help coming back, and there are certain forms of extensions that you get to do that. Video coming really soon, right? Because hair extensions again and weaves again are not something that Black women wear because they're bald. It's not something that Black women wear because they're ashamed of themselves. It's not something that black women wear because they want to be like other women. Black women that wear weaves and extensions wear weaves and extensions for the same reason that all other races of women do. Because when I was working at solar salons and Phoenix salons and studio salons, I was one of maybe about 5 black girls every single time, right? And these studios will have at least like 30 people in it, right? And all of them they was everything but black, and they all did extensions. All of them did extensions, either extensions or color. That's what they're doing in the salon. So my question to you is, why is it that when a black woman puts extensions in her hair, or when a black woman wears a weave, she's wearing it because she doesn't love herself? She's wearing it because she wants to be like other women. She's wearing it because she doesn't have pride. Why is that? But every other race can wear them. Like tape-ins, everybody's going crazy about tape-ins now. Tape-ins are decades old. Okay, people have been doing tape-ins forever, but that's a form of extensions that women with naturally straight and naturally wavy hair have worn. Black women haven't worn them. Eye tips, fusions, and everybody thinks micro link extensions. Everybody thinks that there's something new. They're not new. Those are the form of extensions that I was being taught by women that were not black 15, 16 years ago. None of these forms of extensions are new, not a one. All right, but now everybody is coming out of the team natural brainwash, and because they shamed weaves so much, because they shamed closure so much, how do you then go back and say, oh yeah, you can wear weaves and extensions again, you can wear them again? They can't do that. They have to come back and say, oh well, weaves and closures, they still bad, but do this instead. Do these eye tips, do these fusions, do these tape-ins, do all of these, because it's better for our hair. It's wrong. They've been out for a very long time, and it wasn't something that was marketed towards black women for a very specific reason, right? But natural sew-ins have always been the deal. They've always been the deal. Always. It's always been one of the best ways to grow your hair out and leave it alone at the same time. And if you are a person who lives in a very, very hot climate like we do in Las Vegas, Nevada, where it's probably gonna get to be about 110, 115 in the summertime, you having a silk press, I don't care how silky and smooth it is, when you outside and it's 110 degrees, even if you only out there for 15 minutes, some stuff gonna be reverting back, baby. So it was a certain time of the year where the majority of my clients were just like saying, just put it up, because it's just it's too much. Like, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over expecting a different result. Instead of you trying to change the laws of nature, why don't you just work in co-creation with it? What do I mean by that? People will be like, oh, what product can I use to block humidity? That's crazy. Like, what do you mean? To keep your hair from getting wet? How? That's like saying, what lotion do I put on to keep my skin from getting wet if I go outside in the rain without an umbrella? It's like, what? Stop trying to change the laws of nature and work with the laws of nature, right? You're in co-creation with your creator to make sure that your natural hair growth cycle is moving like it's supposed to. But as you can see in these two videos that we just watched together, right, her hair is not damaged in any way, shape, or form. And weaves and extensions are one of the main reasons we're able to retain length on her hair throughout. I said our hair. It was our hair when I was doing it. I didn't give her head back until it was time for her to go. But so like I said, our hair, you know, would be doing so good. We would give our hair a break, right, in extensions through the summer months, right? Or even if you are somebody who's going swimming, if you're a swimmer, right, weaves is not something that I recommend, right? Something that people will always say, oh, if you're getting in chlorine a lot, no, that's one of the worst things you can do. You know why? Chlorine does the same thing to the hair's cuticle that lightener does. It opens the cortex. That's why if you have like blonde hair and you get in a swimming pool, your hair is going to turn green, because the chlorine opened the cuticle and put that green chemical in your hair. That's why your hair is green, literally, right? So if you're going to be going swimming and stuff like that, you need to have a shower cap and you need to have your hair out. Why? Because you need to be able, to give yourself a really good clarifying shampoo. And upon giving yourself the clarifying shampoo, you make it really, really easy for your scalp to just bounce right back. You cleanse the hair shaft and you keep it moving, right? But to just go ahead and like, oh, I'ma just go ahead, run some water on it and put some co-wash and conditioner on it and put some oil on it, that's not gonna help. All that's gonna do is feed and amplify the colonizing bacteria, making a more favorable environment for it to colonize. And sometimes it can take years for the colonizing bacteria to show itself, right? A lot of times the bacteria lays dormant within the hair follicle or within the hair shaft, just eating away and making the hair weaker and weaker and weaker. But if you're a person who is using a whole bunch of different oils and butters and sealants on the hair, you're sealing in the bacteria, right? So you never really get to feel the way that it's really eating your hair up until you do a clarifying shampoo. Then you'll blame the shampoo. This shampoo stripped my hair. This shampoo made my hair feel rough. No, it didn't. The shampoo just lets you feel what your hair really feels like without all of those products. Your hair is not stripped. Your hair is free of all of the products that you put on it that gave you the illusion of having healthy hair. Your hair isn't healthy. If the shampoo changes the overall texture of your hair, there's something wrong, okay? The 45% off thing that you see, I don't know where that was from. I don't do 45% off nothing no more, okay? So that was from something else, all right, from 7 years ago. I don't even know. But again, sorry about the way that this clip looked, but I just really wanted to show you guys like her length, and I just really wanted to start this series on sew-ins off with a client that did both sew-ins with a natural part and sew-in with a lace closure. As you can see, the middle part is her vibe, okay? Like that's her thug thizzle, the middle part, because it's really, really easy for her to go ahead and put her hair up. As you can see, she could still comb it back, put it in a bun for work, right? And I made sure that she had really thick and chunky layers throughout the top, because that's what sis likes, right? And yeah, we're going from there. So let me know in the comments below which type of sew-in you guys want to see next. Do you want to see a sew-in with a lace closure, or do you want to see a full sew-in with a natural part? Or and then this is the thing too, do you want it to be a side, a middle, or do you want it to be half up, half down, baby? Because whatever you like, I got. Whatever you need, I can get my hands on it. So let me know in the comments below what you think about this video. Thank you so much for watching. This video is almost 40 minutes long, so let me know what you think about our longer flashbacks. This was fun, and welcome to the extension and weaving series. See you soon.